Praise be Jesus Christ.
Now and forever.
This is the second time we start this recording, so I hope this time is going to go well. We just came back from Poland from a pilgrimage. We took over 40 people from our parishes. My name is Father Ziemowit, and here with me is Father David or David. Depends who you ask.
No, it does not depend. Father David.
So this was my first opportunity to go for organized pilgrimage with a company and take my parishioners from my first parish. How many times did you take people to Poland?
I think from the United States probably three times. And then to the walking pilgrimage, which is very different, which we recommend, of course, many times.
Yeah, for this this one we will be going in August, but it's a completely different dynamic and different purpose, I would say. But it was a really transformative experience from the things we've heard from people, from their feedback, and seeing the real change and how impressed they were with our country. It actually helped me to actually grow in deeper appreciation for my country. But since I didn't know even some of those things in history that we've learned from our tours around the places where we visited, so it was super exciting. I think it's also showing people from the United States the richness of the Catholicism, of tradition, over 1,000 years of Catholic faith. So it's pretty impressive. The churches they were visiting, they would always bring an awe and fascination. And so people, I think, also for them was to kind of see that our living and our ministry in the United States, we left a lot. Like we left a lot behind, and we bring it to the States. That's kind of my take on that, and my kind of grace from it. That my mission here in the United States is also to spread the Catholicism that we grew up in, and show people how faith is rich and how faith is important, and especially how faith is necessary to maintain identity as a nation as well. Looking for the Polish history.
Yeah, I don't know what is being taught in the United States about Poland. I can tell you what is being taught about the United States. I mean, before coming to the United States, we saw the United States as this land of opportunity, great place with riches and beauty, and we were extremely excited about coming to the United States and then kind of seeing it for ourselves. Some of the things that we saw in movies, we actually saw here, and we were very much impressed. Other things we just said like, okay, it seems like just how it was in the movies in the 90s, that's how it is still in the United States. But what surprises me every single time when people from America come to Poland, they seem to be shocked, like, oh my God, we expected like no roads,
right?
No cars.
They asked, do you have restaurants in Poland?
We expected like no restaurants, no ATMs. Like, are we gonna have water? Are we gonna have beds?
Well, they definitely had difficulties with ice. That's for sure. But
there is no ice. But yeah, these are little things. But just like general idea of Poland was just like almost pre-liberation from communism. Like, my God, it's going to be gray. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be, boring. Like, why are we even going there? Is it because we want to just spend time with priests, or we want to see Catholicism? And then after 2 days, everybody is just speechless. They're blown away by the beauty, by the advancements of the country, by by the food, by restaurants, by just in general people speaking English, communication, the cleanness, the safety, the friendliness, and of course the all-present Catholic churches. Especially in bigger cities on every corner, and it's to me is always like, what are you being told about this country growing up? Like, why is it such a big surprise? Because coming to the States was just kind of like, okay, this is what we expected, and this is how it is. Whereas over there is like, oh, this is not what we expected. Then what do you expect?
Right. And the first thing I remember, one of the first things that our person commented on was she asked me like, why actually you did leave your country after seeing those beautiful churches within the just first 2 days.
Well, churches in the countryside.
Right.
I mean, you drive 2 hours, 3 hours, and you can be anywhere you want. You want to be in the mountains, you want to be at the lakes, you want to be at the sea, you want to be in this area, 2-3 hours, and this you're there. Of course, we all had our reasons. It's like, why did you leave Poland? Well, because it seemed to me God was calling me to leave Poland, and so that was the only reason. Otherwise, I never thought about leaving Poland. So yeah, that's definitely, it's important. I like bringing our people, our parishioners to Poland because it gives them an opportunity to understand us more. And I think we said it many times, when we went to Warsaw, for example, right? That was the first city, the capital city of Poland, the biggest city. We landed in Poland, and before we even went to the hotel, we went to see the church where Saint Faustina entered after arriving to Warsaw for the first time. Because the pilgrimage was in the footsteps of Saint Faustina, John Paul II, and Maximilian Kolbe, but we also added history of solidarity movement, the Teutonic Knights, beautiful castle in Marburg, and many other historic sites, because I wanted it to be both, because you cannot separate Polish history from the faith. You cannot say like, oh, the country existed before there was religion. It didn't. It actually, the beginning of Poland is the baptism, Christian Catholic baptism of Poland. That's the beginning of the country. And so if you want to separate it, you will have to reestablish the country. And, sometimes when it comes to politics, that there are those parties that want to, separate the state from religion. I'm just thinking like, well, you can't do that. You would have to reinvent Poland. It would be a very different country, not the one we grew up with.
And also, I think seeing the entire history of Poland, it's almost make you feel that we're not afraid of history of this, even those darker parts of the history, like Teutonic Knights. It was a part of it, but it was. Sometimes it's difficult to understand why those things happened, and then, for example, later on we visited Auschwitz, and so there was also a part of the of Polish history that death camp, and seeing those things, the beauty of the country, the good things and those bad things that happened in the history, all those wars, and this country is still alive. It's still existing. For me, one of those most fascinating things. Again, I knew the history before, for sure. We know that the Polish country ceased to exist for 123 years. And under the occupation of Austria, Prussia, and Germany, and Austria, Prussia, and Russia. So and then it was somehow through uprising movement, it was restored to its identity, and I feel it's and I see it's so fascinating. How that actually happened. And we know that without faith, without people who love the country, has this patriotic understanding and identity, would never happen.
Well, yeah, I just want to go back to the reason why it's important for our people here, the Americans, parishioners who have Polish priests. Like, you have a Polish priest, and he's different, right? We come from a country. Usually, we are born during communism, and we knew the history, which was difficult. And I remember one of the members of the pilgrimage came up to me after 2 days. So we visited already Warsaw, which was a lot of history of the Warsaw Uprising, World War II, the destruction, the percentage of the city, which was overwhelming. Most of it was completely grounded, destroyed. Then we went to Niepokalanów, which of course we learned the history of St. Maximilian Kolbe and how he was taken to Auschwitz, how he gave his life, and just, very dramatic and cruel, in a sense, history of the Polish people. And this gentleman comes up to me and says, like, wow, Father, I'm like, it's not really even the religion, but just the history of the country is already, it's amazing to me. And then, if you grew up shaped by it, right, by the resistance, by how we don't give up, by how we, in a sense, appreciate the fact that Catholic religion helped us preserve Polish identity, history, made us the way we are, just kind of stubborn people, we push forward. I think it helps us to bond with our American parishioners and helps them understand why we just, we may be more careful. Politically, we may look at things and say, like, I don't think that's a good idea, because we went through this, we understand a little bit more, and we really think you need to be more appreciative, you need to be a little bit more careful, with the things, with how things are.
Yeah, definitely. We kind of take time whenever something new appears. New ideology, new idea. I think it's the first kind of response would be like, no, like, let's. The first thing, I remember from my family, it was always, whenever I asked something, it was always no first, and then you have to kind of negotiate through that, and to maybe clarify your point and show that it's maybe a good idea, whatever it was. But it's also shows that we know that Warsaw was destroyed, the capital of Poland was destroyed completely during the war. 85% of the city was destroyed. Seeing those pictures it's almost like hopeless. But then you go back and you cannot even see the destruction. So everything can be rebuilt. This is something like theological here also, that everything can be rebuilt, and especially with faith and with the effort of the people. And if we have strong ideals, and the church was definitely the one that hold that and contributed to reconstruction of Warsaw and of the country.
Well, I think it's important also to add that, remember, Poland was left, right, by the West in the hands of Russians. That means the country had to be rebuilt with no reparations given from the Western countries. So not only destroyed by the war, and the most percentage of people murdered during the war, Polish people, and treasures stolen, pieces of art, over 2 million pieces of art, which many of them have never been returned by countries that have stolen them, of course, including Germany, the most, and then no reparations have been done until today. And the country had to be rebuilt by the people of Poland without any help from the West. And I think that came as a big surprise to many people who came thinking that, oh yeah, we came and we saved. Well, not in that way. Poland was not rebuilt by the money from the West, because it was left in Russian hands, and many of Polish heroes who survived the war were actually murdered by the Russians during communism. So just imagine you win the war in a sense, you feel like you're in a free country, just to find out that now those who are controlling the country, the Soviets, the Russians, are going to murder you for being a hero for the country.
Yeah.
And so we are learning so much more now in Poland about how many soldiers, heroes of World War II were then later in the 50s and 60s executed and tortured for being patriots of Poland.
Right.
And so it's overwhelming in a sense. And I think it was beautiful that from Warsaw, after seeing Maximilian, St. Faustina's, the Church of St. Jacob, where she first entered, and started, she was lost, she didn't know where to go, and she went to Mass, and the priest of that parish directed her to a family outside of Warsaw, where she spent another year before she was able to enter a monastery. And then we also went to the monastery of St. Maximilian Kolbe in Niepokalanów. Niepokalanów is a city, a town that was actually established by him. It originated from the community of Franciscans, during which, founded in 1927 by St. Maximilian Kolbe, became the largest Franciscan monastery in the world. About 600 young men were there present during the time of St. Maximilian Kolbe, during the printing press, when he invented the Militia Immaculata, for which he paid the highest price, because he was taken to Auschwitz as a dangerous man, because he was printing something that was, copied into millions of copies. And then we went there. So Niepokalanów means the Immaculate, so the city of the Immaculate.
Which is fascinating, actually, that the city was right. He found that the city was founded because of that place, that monastery. There was nothing there before, and it was the largest monastery in the world, right? I think they had over 700 at best, at the highest time. 600 brothers and religious brothers, and some of them, probably some percent of them, were priests. So that was amazing. And before they took him to Auschwitz, his brothers shaved his beard. I remember from the tour guide that she said that he asked them to burn it, but they kept it, and that's the only relic that we have, because when he was taken to Auschwitz, he was killed, and then his body was burned in the chamber, and so we have only the relic of the first class relic of Maximilian Kolbe. That's his beard. But we can maybe share the most fascinating part for us as priests. When we went there to his chapel, where he would celebrate masses, the first thing actually was fascinating, that to see his room, and there was just a simple bed, a table, I think something to write, a couple of books, and that's it. And it was just super simple. And I was thinking about how his message spread, his mission spread throughout the entire world, how he traveled in so many places, bringing the message of our Blessed Mother to the world from that little room. And sometimes we are surrounded by digital things and technology, and we still cannot spread and evangelize in a proper way. So that was fascinating. I wonder if he would have a podcast today.
He would, because he was an inventor. He was all into
he would
radio,
be the first, probably,
TV, everything. Yeah, he would. But obviously, he had this very particular mission, and it shows. And I think it's another fascinating thing is that this is 1927, right? Maximilian Kolbe is a young priest, double doctorate, and he is founding this monastery. And at the same time, John Paul II is already 7 years old, living in Kraków or Wadowice. And then St. Faustina is already in the monastery, right? Of the sisters. Like my grandfather was born in 1920 as well. Just imagine that, he was alive when all these people, these future great saints were alive. Just within 2 hours from each other, all of them lived without knowing that they would have such impact on the universal church in the 21st century. The whole world knows them. I mean, obviously, we were coming to, the place where Faustina was born, and there was a trip from Costa Rica right in front of us. A pilgrimage. It's like Costa Rica in this little village that nobody knows where it is in Poland.
Right, that was something amazing, like to see those people.
Yeah,
like from our perspective, like knowing how small is that village, and why would people come here? And
ridiculous. Well, just because they became saints, and so.
But but I think also that teaches us that the more our life becomes like easier and more comfortable, there's like less motivation. I don't know, it's something about that simplicity of life and struggle, and that time in history of Poland was a difficult one. Right now, when we go back, everything is almost the same. I mean, 10 years ago the prices were half of those that we pay here in the United States. Now we go back I go back to my city, I go to the restaurant, and almost I have to pay the same price as I pay here. So the country economically got so much better, but at the same time the church struggles still, and the faith is not as strong, if you will, as it was maybe during that time of persecution, in a sense, from the government. But also then another fascinating thing that we didn't actually expect, because you've been to Niepokalanów many times, right? A couple of times. That was my actually first time visit. It was interesting because after my conversion in 2016, I haven't practiced my faith for 17 years before that. So I didn't experience a lot of Catholicism in Poland, like true Catholicism, like living out the faith and going to the church, knowing those things, knowing those saints and places. And when I came to the United States to study, I would only go for vacations back to Poland, and I had different things to do. Sometimes I would visit those places, but I was not able to go. So that pilgrimage was really opportunity for me to discover that those beautiful sites, holy sites. And so we entered the sacristy in Niepokalanów, and there was behind the window there were 2 or 3 vestments of Maximilian Kolbe, like an exhibit. So I took a picture of it, and then the sacristan comes up to us and he says, like, "Are you conservative traditionalists?" Right? And we're like, yeah, okay. Would you like to wear the vestments for mass of Maximilian Kolbe? I'm like, what? Like, really? Seriously? Sure. So we did wear the vestments.
Before he blinked, we were already dressed up. Father Zimowicz was like, what? I'm like, just put this on.
And I remember when you said it before mass, like, we are wearing vestments that that Maximilian Kolbe wore, and there was like this
Oh yeah. I think the people didn't hear any of the homily. They only remember the fact that I said in the beginning, like, "Hey, we're wearing Maximilian Kolbe's vestments," and that's all they were waiting for.
And they would take pictures. Yeah.
It's like, really?
That was amazing.
Oh, no.
That was something else. I've never experienced something like that before. It was super humbling, and amazing experience. Like once in a lifetime, I guess.
Yeah. That's so. After being in that chapel and seeing the cell and just the place that he was able to build, Maximilian Kolbe, we went also the next day to the tomb of Father Jerzy Popiełuszko, a martyr saint of Poland during the 80s. 82 actually, he was murdered by the communist police militia for basically encouraging workers to have faith. During the Solidarity movement, he was their chaplain, and he became number one to be killed by the secret police. And so in 1982, he was preaching a homily in Gdańsk and then coming back to Warsaw, and on the way back he was kidnapped, beaten almost to death, and then thrown into a river and murdered. And I think they said that during his funeral there were about 2 million people present, and it became a big, huge manifestation against communists. They probably would have expected that this would have happened, and yet they couldn't resist but murdered that priest. He was just 10 years ordained, and I went to the same seminary as he did in Warsaw, and so I remember his picture there on the composite, the graduating class of whatever that was, 1970 something. And I remember he was just one of the guys. Nobody would have thought that he would be a future saint, martyr of the faith. But that was a very powerful experience. People went to the museum and saw the cassock in which he was, murdered, in his car, and many pictures when he was taken out of the river, his parents. Definitely very powerful place. His tomb is in the shape of a big rosary, like huge stones are placed, 50 stones around a square of that church, St. Stanislav Church in Warsaw, where he used to preach sermons to the Solidarity movement workers. And so, yeah, that was the one thing, actually, major thing that they couldn't stand, right? Because he was attracting so many people coming to that church. He was just preaching goodness. He said just fight evil with goodness. That was like the thing he said.
Yeah, but it's good to actually notice that he didn't preach any evil agenda toward political figures. But he was just preaching the truth.
Yeah, and he was preaching love.
And they would interpret everything he said that it's against them.
Of course.
So interesting.
Yeah, and I think this is another moment in which, I was telling people, we were formed in that spirit. So when I went to seminary, it was hard for us not to want to be like him, courageous in the face of danger, preaching the truth no matter what. And then you come to the United States, and sometimes you preach a sermon against abortion, contraception, in vitro, whatever it is that we preach, or just against divorce, or just sermon on virtue, and then you get some pushback. And those who are doing it thinking oh yeah, maybe I'll just make sure that he never says it again. It's no, it's impossible. I grew up in the country of Father Jerzy Popiełuszko, who was murdered by the secret service, and he was warned, and he didn't break. Why would I break? Just because you don't like my sermon against, and being a Catholic should really be ashamed to put a priest down just because he's preaching Catholic doctrine, right? Instead, no. It's if there's a pushback, I'm going to do it again and again and again, because it's not going to stop, because this is why we became priests, right? To preach the truth and to continue spreading the gospel, in season and out of season.
Right. It's super important also for vocations. I mean, I remember one of the things that I was attracted to was just to preach the truth, to actually sacrifice my life and not be afraid to say some things that sometimes are uncomfortable. When I converted, I've heard them a lot of teachings that were uncomfortable, but that I think you were the one of the priests that would guide me in the very beginning of my journey, but you were very strict and direct and straightforward, and I said, this is it. I think that's what makes you a man. That's what makes you mature as a young man, and that's what makes the priesthood also attractive for a young man, and that brings more vocations for sure. During St. John Paul II's papacy, the seminaries were full in Poland. Hundreds of new seminaries.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was in a seminary during his time, and I was telling people, we were looking up to him, and everybody wanted to be like him. And then we became priests, and we realized, well, we're not him. Like,
Right.
we all have like our very much particular vocation and a way and a mission within the church. It's like Saint Teresa of Lisieux would say, like, what is my place in the church? I know my place in a church, but do you know your place in a church? Everybody has a different one. I cannot take John Paul II's place in the church, or Ratzinger's, or Francis, or Leo, or whoever it is, or bishop, or priest, another priest. No, we all have our particular place in a church. And yeah, we can be inspired by them. And that's why I think seminaries were full, because John Paul II exhibited this manliness, this courage, this goodness, just everything. He was joyful and he was strict, and he was strong and he was weak, and he was like speaking all these languages and traveling all around the world, and like, who would want to be like this, right? And
Right.
people are like, he's like a rock star was like nothing comparing to him. Like,
Right.
To the rock star goes like 50,000 people to the concert, and John Paul II shows up, it's like 2 million young people. Like, you cannot really even beat the guy.
Right. Going back to Jerzy Popiełuszko again, I think it's good to recommend the movie. It's called Freedom is Within Us.
In English, yeah.
In English,
Great
Freedom
movie.
is Within Us. Great movie, depicting his story, showing the reality that he lived in, and the courage and faith that he had, and devotion and kind of simplicity of
Simple
life.
man, nothing special
Yeah.
about him until it became evident that he was special.
What is also fascinating about him, I read in his story that his parents were so devout Catholics, and when he became a priest, they call him priest. They didn't call him by name; they would refer to him as a priest. So that shows kind of like the reverence for the office, and the reverence for this vocation. And so we have a lot of heroes, saints that are popular and well known in Poland, but not as much in the United States. And they are great witnesses, and great examples of how we can grow in holiness.
Okay, so from Warsaw, we got on a bus and we drove to Gdańsk. We drove 5 hours. It usually takes 3, but now you have all these new regulations of the European Union that the driver has to stop every 2 hours or something, and people have to take a break, so it takes a longer time. And we went to Gdańsk. Gdańsk is by the Baltic Sea, and it's interesting because I like Warsaw because I studied there. I like it. I have a lot of friends. I think Warsaw has changed a lot, and it's just much friendlier place, much more beautiful than it used to be. I just like it. But many people said like, I don't think I could see myself living here. Many people from America.
Mm-hmm.
But when we went to Gdańsk, well, that was a game changer, because people were like, I could definitely see myself living here. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous, especially the old town, by the sea, by the river. There are just so many tourists that you just couldn't walk. And the old town is huge. The streets are beautiful. You have all these restaurants and hotel by the river. It just doesn't, like, you would come and say like, this is Poland? Yeah, that's Poland. And you would not know. And so we went to the Mariacki Church of Gdańsk, the Basilica, which is the largest brick church in the world. The construction lasted 160 years. It can hold over 20,000 people. Just imagine, we just put up those churches sometimes, within a year, and we want everything perfect, and we want everything fast. And then we sometimes not happy with it. Like, we could have done this, we could have done that. Well, if we're rushing, sometimes that's the price we pay, but they used to take time, and now we can go and be in awe. We celebrated Mass in the royal castle built by King Jan Sobieski, which was the king who defeated the Turks at Vienna, so saved Europe from the flood of Muslims. You can also buy the vodka, Jan Sobieski, in Poland, and I know some people did and brought it as a token of saving Christian world.
Not to drink, but just
not to drink, just to have the bottle,
have the bottle,
right?
yeah.
Just to show the bottle that they were. very, very popular vodka in Poland, Jan Sobieski. But yeah, it was a pretty spectacular city, and in that city we went to the European Solidarity Center, so to the place where the shipyards were and where the workers for the first time said no to the communists. And so we went to a very historic place, very historic.
Right, one of the churches also that we visited was St. Bridget's Basilica, the church that is made, the altar is made out of amber.
The amber altar,
yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous. It was funny because we enter with the guide, and the guy is like blah 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 blah. She's talking about something,
some
and
history,
like
and
some history
like,
and everybody walked in, the 43 people, and
her.
they're like not even listening. Everybody just went left and straight in front of the altar, and they're just like in awe. And then after 5 minutes of talking, she just realized that everybody's praying, and it's fascinating. And she said, "Okay, we're just gonna have some prayer time and silence." But I wanted to say, beauty attracted them, and it was funny because it not only attracted everybody, like I was one of them. I immediately went towards the altar, but it also made people pray. Like we didn't have to say anything. Nobody wanted to listen to the guide. They just wanted to be in silence, and for like 10 minutes they were looking and just in awe, looking at all the pieces of this amber altar. And I thought, wow, this is really telling. Like if we build beauty, if we give people beauty, liturgical in churches, it leads them to connect with the Holy of Holies, with God. And it's just like, it was funny.
Right. So one of our pilgrims after Mass, she said that I found out that whenever I was distracted at Mass, and I used to get distracted when I'm in the church, I would just look in one place, one corner of the church, or look up, and there would always be some kind of art or a painting or a statue or some carvings. And that would kind of brought her back
help
to
me focus,
help you focus or not lose,
focus.
not lose focus or go, daydreaming during Mass. So, yeah, I mean, the churches were from the very beginning used for education, for evangelization and education. People were illiterate in the very first couple of centuries of the church. So it's a beautiful tool to have beauty in the church, and and I think you're working on that pretty well here at your parish since you got here. Many beautiful paintings or arts was brought here, the relics. So it's a great. That's why maybe somebody asking me why just adding so many things in the church, like that's why, like
that's one of the reasons, definitely, because and not only that, but also as devotions arise, right? We suddenly have a devotion to the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and then I'm like, well, we don't have a painting, or like we could make something that is just very personal or very ours here at St. Anne's. And so I want that. I want for the people, because sometimes they may not even realize like why. But after a while coming into the church, they begin to connect with it and say like, well, this is very personal. It's very ours. It belongs to the parish. It's something that helps me connect with or make it my home, make it my own. And so it's important. I mean, the people of Gdańsk, they're very proud of that altar, but the altar is just so expensive. I mean, it took so much effort and money and sponsorship to build it. But why is it important? Because people did not shy away from it. They wanted this piece of altar in honor of God to be so absolutely beautiful that people have to pay a ticket to enter that church and see it. And once you walk in, you just reduce to silence. Right. You just go straight to it, and you just like nothing else matters.
Yeah, and the silence was always there. Like whenever we would go in any church, people were very reverential and
very quiet. Churches in Poland are very quiet, and I think most of them had somebody hearing confessions all the time. I mean, that's one of the marks. People were always noticing that confessionals were everywhere. It's not like sometimes you're looking, is there a confessional here? Right. No, they're actually very visible, so that it just kind of draws your attention. But yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned the Solidarity Movement museum. We added it to our agenda. It wasn't at first in our plan, but I think it was a great addition to our trip. People really appreciated it, and the museum is very, very well done.
Yeah.
It was beautiful for me to kind of go back and
that was my first time too. I never been there.
Yeah, and discover that history again. And see how important and crucial moment that was in the history of our country. So it was founded, I think you mentioned that, it was founded in the 1980 labor strikes at the Gdańsk shipyard. And it was led by Lech Wałęsa, and grew to nearly 10 million members. It was strongly supported also by St. John Paul II at that time, and and that whole movement contributed to abolishing the communism in Poland. So yes, one of the most powerful pilgrimages to Poland that St. John Paul II did was when he came and he preached a sermon, and you can find this sermon on YouTube, and you might be surprised the way he preached, because we sometimes see him as this young, very polite man. But this one is very addresses very strongly, and almost like with the righteous anger, screaming to not destroy his country, not destroy, because the country is his mother. And that was a very, very moving and motivating event for the people of Poland. And the government leaders were shaking when they've heard that he's coming, and they had conversations with him. So he contributed to the abolition of communism, this evil ideology that wanted to destroy the church, destroy the Catholic faith, destroy the families, and sell false ideology, false ideal for the people. So after the Solidarity movement, which we spent a couple of hours there, the facility is just gorgeous and beautiful, very well prepared. We moved to a Malbork Castle.
That was great too, actually. So another addition.
Yes. So we've learned about this, maybe, if you will, the darker part of the history of Poland. But it was amazing to see how massive, how immense that construction is. And this Malbork Castle, it's called Teutonic Castle. It's the largest, actually, brick castle in the world, and it was a headquarters of the Teutonic Knights. It was a symbol of medieval military Christianity. So we've learned from it that Christianity in our country spread through both, saints and also the political powers. And we've learned that not every chapter of Christian history is simple, and but we take it. We are not ashamed of it, in a sense. We take lesson from it, and we move on. But it's a huge part of our history as well. So Malbork was very, very impressive to see. It was definitely something that I think I've seen it once when I was younger. I think we went with a school, But you never pay attention to when you're younger. Really, don't pay attention to many things. We've seen a lot of also during pilgrimages. Our pilgrimage, we've seen a lot of first communion kids having those. I think little pilgrimages or trips with school. Also, like students walking around in the downtown of Gdańsk, of different cities, and I was also like reflecting, seeing myself in the past doing that, and there was a guide always explaining some things to them, and I'm like, what do I remember from those trips when
Nothing.
I did that?
Nothing.
It's nothing.
It's like a black
It's like,
hole.
is it just a waste of time? It probably remembers something, but
No.
but it wasn't. No, I think it was good for me to go back again and with different perspective, different attitude, different understanding, to hear that story again.
Yeah, Marble Castle actually for me it was great, great visit. They were the Teutonic Knights, they were the Crusaders, but it's funny story how you invite Christians, knights of God, who's supposed to be like defending the country, serving God, and they turn completely evil and begin to like take your land and steal from you and murder people to raise money and basically establish their own kingdom, and then you have to fight them. I mean, how twisted was the history of the Teutonic Knights Order? And eventually they're chased out from Poland, and the castle was bought out. It was never conquered. The king had to buy it. And they said the equivalent of money in gold that he paid would have been $10 billion now. And it's huge. The castle is huge. The tour would have taken 6 hours just to walk through it, but it took us 2 because we just had to go. I mean, our schedule was so busy. From morning till night, we were on the go every day. So then we went to Toruń. Toruń is a birthplace of Nicholas Copernicus. You may have heard about him, right? The one who invented the heliocentric model, that sun is in the center and the planets are circling around the sun. He was a cathedral canon, churchman, so most likely priest. And demonstrates the Catholic contribution to science. We had free time there, about 2 hours, to eat the pierniki, which is a specific candy or bake. What is it? What would you call it?
Pastry, I guess.
Pastry, yeah, that they make in Toruń. Beautiful town, beautiful downtown. And then from Toruń, we went on to Wadowice, which is the birthplace of Saint Faustina. I mean, a little village in the middle of nowhere. Like,
The bus could barely make it through those little roads.
The roads were so tiny that the bus could. But the funny thing is, they have to keep developing the place because now pilgrimages from all around the world are coming there, and it's just so funny because you see these basic stores there and like nothing else, and one church and 2 bathrooms and like this tiny little gift shop with a little nun. But people from all around the world are coming. So Faustina was born there in 1905 as a third of the 10 children of the family of the Kowalski. Very simple farming family. Of course, now she's known throughout the world. We're not going to talk about, Saint Faustina. You can look it up. Saint Faustina is one of the most popular saints. Of course, she wrote the Diary of Divine Mercy. She's responsible for receiving the Divine Mercy chaplet from Jesus. I mean, she gave us a new prayer. She gave us a new devotion. She gave us an image that is basically almost in every church, in the world. I wish we had more in our diocese. Would be nice if we saw it also at the cathedral, because it's such a devotion that people are looking for it. But maybe one day. So Divine Mercy hour, the 3 p.m. hour, Divine Mercy Sunday. I mean, it's huge. And
yeah, would her parents expect that?
Right. That this little girl, simple redhead girl, and we went to her church, like literally the church she would enter as a little girl, and we would pray in front of the place where she would pray. And it was so amazing because, in the memoir was when they were preparing the canonization process, people were being interviewed who remembered her as this little redhead girl who would just come into the church and go straight to the altar and pray. Like nothing special about her. Back then, all the girls were just like well behaved in the church. Sometimes they wouldn't even go because they wouldn't have the proper clothing. And Faustina had the same issue. Sometimes she would skip Sunday because her sister was wearing the Sunday dress. That says something about where we've come. We are so comfortable sometimes that we don't know if we are on the beach or in the church, and we think that's all good. Well, where is the devotion then?
Right. I think just to set the main point of her story is that God can work through take ordinary people and do extraordinary
insignificant
things
people.
And give him the extraordinary missions. It was amazing to pray the rosary on the backyard of her house and
the Divine Mercy Chaplet.
Divine Mercy, yes, Divine Mercy Chaplet, and then there was a tree. This huge tree was there.
Yeah, beautiful tree.
That's the tree that she grew up with.
It was there when she was growing up. That tree.
and then lastly, we were there is a little house, 3 rooms. Basically,
well, one bedroom, one kitchen, and one workspace.
Right.
That means the 3 rooms.
And we were able to sneak in and to that room in the middle.
Yeah, the sister let us in, the 2 of us, priests, and kneel in
pray.
Front of it. Yeah, kneel and pray, and just kind of wonder about how crazy this is, that from this house that could fit into most living rooms of our houses here. Gave to the world one of the greatest saints whose writings are like in every language right now. And then the girl went through like 2 classes. She made so many mistakes in the diary that they had to spend so much time correcting her grammar. But if you have problems with grammar, don't worry, right? Because you can still be a saint. That's the great thing. So from there we go to Częstochowa. Częstochowa, the place of Black Madonna. You can Google it, Czestochowa, Częstochowa, Jasna Góra, which means the bright hill, which is the place of the Black Madonna of Poland. You may remember from John Paul II's time when he would have, always talk about Black Madonna, the one with 2 scars on her face. It's the spiritual center of Poland, spiritual heart of Poland, most venerated image in Poland, most visited shrine in Poland. And literally when we went there on a Saturday, which was a kind of little rain, that was the only rainy day we had. And after that we went to Auschwitz, but it was so busy. It was like
super packed.
It was so packed. We were just wondering like how are we not gonna lose somebody? We have 43 people. We're supposed to do a tour. Yeah, we
lost some point.
Yeah, and like how are we not gonna lose somebody? All the First Communion children in Poland, because First Communion in Poland is not like simple as here. It's just you have First Communion, that's it, you're done. No, you have the White Week. So every day you go to church, dress up in your First Communion clothing, and masses are being offered for your families, for your deceased members of your families, for your uncles, for your godparents, all of that. And then the children make a pilgrimage. Some of them go to Divine Mercy Shrine, some will go to Częstochowa and other places. And on that day, they all came to Częstochowa, and it was like crazy.
And there was also a weekend of Alcoholic Anonymous, I think, that would come. There, someone told me, about Częstochowa we can talk on and on, because that's the origin of our vocations to the priesthood, which is and I believe it's not only us that received some confirmation for the call during that pilgrimage. It's a place where we actually go for a pilgrimage, and this is the final destination of our pilgrimage, a walking pilgrimage that we do trying to do every year in August. So there are even more people there. But the time we went there during our pilgrimage, it felt like it's August. It felt like so many people were coming to the image. But yeah, so many of our pilgrims were able to come closer to the image of Black Madonna and take a picture, and it was very, very powerful experience for them.
Yeah. Again, we didn't have much time because our schedule was packed. I mean, but we were able to spend some time there, learn the history. Had a great guide who was actually an American guy who was dating a Polish girl, so he was trying to learn some Polish. But he was very good. And then from Częstochowa, the spiritual center of Poland, the group went to Auschwitz. I left that day because I went back home for a day to attend a first communion of my godson, one of my godsons. One of them was here in the States, another one was in Poland, and I was able to make it both. And they went to the German concentration death camp, also known as Nazi, but Nazi doesn't really say much. It was established by Germans, and it was a death camp that was established for extermination of Jews, but not only Jews. Second largest group was Polish people, and then, gypsies, Romes, intelligentsia also as one of them, because there are many camps. That was only one of them. Some of them were geared towards, political prisoners, some of them intelligentsia, so professors, priests, bishops, in Dachau in Germany, all established by the Germans, the Nazis. And this one, of course, was most known. It's called Oświęcim in Polish, Birkenau, Oświęcim, and Brzezinka, which is Auschwitz, Birkenau.
Yeah, sometimes we hear about those numbers and they appear as huge, but when we actually go there to Auschwitz and see how many artifacts, like, shoes, hair, exhibits, how many, or like prosthetics even.
Suitcases. People came with their goods and they said, "Hey, take a bath over there, and see you on the other side." Instead, it was
right.
A gas chamber,
right,
to murder them and take all their goods, take all their teeth out, all the gold. I mean, just imagine the evil of it. We tell you had a long journey on a train,
and you pay. Many of them paid for that trip.
Yeah, so you have a long journey on a train. Then you get off the train, to tell you, "Oh, there was a long journey, so go and take a bath." You strip of your clothes, everything. They murder you in the gas chamber. They come into the gas chamber, remove your teeth, everything from your jewelry, and then throw you into usually cremation,
right?
Or just in prison for a few weeks and then cremation.
Yeah, the most terrifying thing, the exhibit was the shoes of the children. I've seen people's reactions and faces, and it was a terrifying experience for them, because when we see it, we really can have a better grasp of it, how cruel that tragedy, that place was, and it also, it happened not too long ago. It's been within 100 years, not even.
And also not too far from Krakow. I mean, so
right.
You're talking about, John Paul II is literally studying in clandestine monastery, and they don't know that this thing exists. 20 minutes away.
Right.
20 minutes away, when he's going to the underground seminary during war, these people are being murdered, and his friends, because he had so many Jewish friends, and that's why, it explains his relationship with the Jewish religion as well.
Right. Yeah, and the most powerful place spiritually was the cell of where Maximilian Kolbe was killed by injection of lethal injection. And it was very very moving to pass by that cell for a brief moment to look into it. There's a candle, and there was a place. There's a place also that St. John Paul II would visit, right?
Yeah, and it's amazing that in the place of darkness, when they thought they achieved the greatest evil, Maximilian Kolbe preserved Christian charity. And that's why he is a saint, because in the place where there was no charity left, it seemed, he showed it. Mm-hmm. And he showed it in to the highest degree, like Jesus said, there is no greater love than to give your life for your friends. And so spectacular person.
Yeah, from Auschwitz, of course, we the last 4 days we stayed in Krakow in the same hotel, so we would travel back and forth to different sites. Krakow itself is such a beautiful city where it was intact during the war. So you have all those historical buildings, historical churches in Krakow itself. You have so many churches that if you would like to attend a mass every Sunday, it would take you over 2 years until you get to the
every
first
Sunday
one.
in a different church. It will take you 2 years.
Well, not all of the churches probably are active, but if you would like to go there, that's what I mean.
There are 60 churches within the strict downtown.
Right. So people would say, like, what is that church? It's Dominicans, and that literally, like, on
2 minutes
to your
walking,
left, Franciscans,
and then Carmelites,
Jesuits.
and then another parish, and then Mariacki Church, and it's called the Polish Rome, and it's that used to be the capital. It has the museum with the coronation sword of the first Polish kings, burial place of kings, bishops, saints, national heroes. It has the Wawel Castle. I mean, there's just so much to see. The Jewish quarters, the Jewish ghetto, all there. The Schindler's Factory from the Schindler's List movie of Spielberg. St. Florian's Church, where Karol Wojtyła, young priest, future John Paul II, used to be a provicar, and he would hear confessions. They still have that confessional, of course, there. And it's only just 20 minutes or 30 minutes from Wadowice, which we went to see. Just many things. I mean, we could talk about Krakow, but again, it's, historically, religiously, it's just absolutely gorgeous, beautiful churches. People are excited to just go and visit those churches, and the beautiful little chapel in the middle of the market square, which is the biggest in Europe, the market square. Women loved it. They were just going shopping all the time and just kind of thinking like, hey, we're going to sneak out and buy something. And in that chapel, there is adoration all day long, and every single day there is a mass at 9:37 p.m., which is exactly when John Paul II died. And in commemoration of his death, they celebrate Mass every night, 9:37 p.m. in that little chapel. And it's always at overflowing because it's so tiny, but people will come.
Yeah, I think it probably can contain, 30 people?
30 people, maybe, but it's beautiful inside. It's very, very symbolic to see all these people outside, drinking, partying, it's a marketplace, there are bars, restaurants, and then in the middle of it is that adoration chapel, and people can come in, and it's quiet inside, always quiet.
Yeah. Well, the site that we visited was a salt mine in Wieliczka. Just briefly about that, it's over 700 years, and it's one of the UNESCO World Heritage Site. Beautiful chapel. On the lowest level,
cathedral,
carved in salt, basically by three people who were designing it, three artists. But it was
it took them like 60 years or something.
Yes, 67 years, I believe. Yeah, 67 years. You have to be there to see how low is that, like how long it takes to actually bring things and tools and everything and be there and do that work for so long.
I mean, just think about it. It's 700 years old.
Right.
There's no even United States of America, and they are already mining salt in hundreds of feet below the ground. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. And this funny thing is that when you go through the corridors, every few minutes you'll see a statue of some sort of a saint, because they're afraid to die. So they were like carving these saint statues because they had devotion. They were Catholics. They were just, underground praying and working.
Yeah, and then in order to go for mass, they built chapels there,
exactly.
And the priests would go there and celebrate masses there.
Yeah, you can Google it again. I mean, it's Wieliczka salt mine in Poland, and you'll see the beautiful pictures.
One of the fascinating the insights I got from there was that there were no insects because there was salt, and I was like reflecting. Well, you are the salt of the earth, right? Like when you're like insulted with God, God and with faith and with truth, there are no insects around you. Like there's no evil spirits go
no
away.
Flies and mosquitoes.
Right. Well, that'll be good to have. Especially in Macon area when I'm in Warren Robins, those insects are kind of annoying. But yeah, so after the Wieliczka, after the salt mine, that was the following day, I guess. Yeah, we went to Wadowice, which is the birthplace of Saint John Paul II. We visited his church when he was baptized. We celebrated Mass at the side chapel. Beautiful, very small city. Nothing significant. The church is beautiful.
Yeah, gorgeous church actually. Like almost like we walked in and we said like, well, it's probably how every church should be. It's like it's like this ideal kind of, 3 naves, the middle, the right, the left, beautiful altars, beautiful art and confessional. It's just kind of
adoration chapel.
Yeah, almost everywhere. Almost everywhere we went, there was adoration going on in a small chapel,
Right.
Which was pretty amazing. That sometimes we are so worried about making sure that people signed up for every hour. Over there, they just take out the Blessed Sacrament, place it in the chapel, and like somebody comes, and that's like, yeah, that's great. You come, he's there.
Right.
And if nobody's there, well, he's still there blessing with his presence. So it was great to see everywhere there was almost an adoration chapel in the side chapel. So, but Wadowice, of course, birthplace of John Paul II, museum of his family home. And, you could go to the kitchen where he used to sit at the table and look at the clock, which was on the wall of the church. And we went out then later for lunch and ate this cake that he used to call the kremówka, which was cream cake, but it really, the story was that they would go and get alcohol, wine
with the cake,
and it would come with the cake. That's why when he was a pope and he was mentioning, he was kind of laughing like a guilty child. He said, we would used to go to kremówka, which means like they would go for wine and they would get the kremówka.
And so the only like the older folks would understand that joke.
Yeah, so no, it doesn't come with wine anymore.
Yeah.
Well, basically, if you buy wine, they're not going to give you kremówka. You can get the cake by itself, though. So that was awesome, too. And then from there, from Wadowice, imagine, we went to Calvary Hill. So it's called Kalwaria Zebrzydowska, and that is another completely spectacular place. When we went up there, it's a whole mountain, whole hill and town dedicated to the Stations of the Cross, and there are hundreds of them, but you have to spend probably a few days walking through the woods to find them. And they have a beautiful play of the Passion on Good Friday, Holy Saturday. I was there once for Holy Week with my professors from Mount St. Mary's Seminary 16 years ago, and we experienced that. That was absolutely gorgeous, but that was another place where people walked in and saw the pilgrim house where you can rent rooms and stay there for a few days, and the church, and they said, like, I would like to come back here.
Yeah,
I would like to come back here and spend a week or so. I mean, it was, the weather was following us everywhere. We had gorgeous weather. It was refreshing. It was beautiful. Everything was green because it's May, so it's real spring, And in that place, beautiful chapels of Our Lady of Calvary, Zebrzydowska, where John Paul II used to come as a young boy, and then young seminarian, and then young priest, and then young bishop. He loved that place, and even as a cardinal, so...
Yeah. Next site we visited was in Łagiewniki, so we stayed in the Krakow area. It's probably 20
the
minutes
Divine Mercy
outside
Shrine,
of Krakow. Divine Mercy
yeah.
Shrine, the place where Saint Faustina
is buried.
Is buried, and then she spent the last years of her life. There's also in this chapel, there is of course place where she prayed, and where the Divine Mercy image is exposed, the second version, and you can kneel in front of her relic, the piece of her bone, and you can pray. For me, it was another moment actually to go back there after 10 years and say kind of the same prayer.
Thank you.
Yeah, I 10 years ago before my conversion, I said that prayer, Lord, if you are there, help me. And
If you exist,
yes,
I dare you.
and he did. And I went there again, and I was thinking maybe I should pray something else, but I literally prayed the same thing. And it was very, very moving. And so we had a little tour done by sister Teresiana, and she would give us also after that little quotes from the diary. And for some people, those quotes were very, very moving. I was actually reminded that in that quote that Jesus is the one who hears confessions. Like, of course, there's a priest who represents Christ, but imagine going to confession with that kind of attitude that it's not a priest actually that you're confessing to, but it's Jesus himself. How would that change the way you confess your sins? And that was very beautiful grace for me to kind of renew that the sacrament and refresh the sacrament again.
Yeah, Divine Mercy Shrine, I love that place. So that's one of the two places, especially the old chapel where Faustina used to sit and come to Mass and have all kinds of revelations during Mass. One of the best places to pray. I can sit in that church and sit and sit and sit and never leave. It's just something there. And I think it's really the devotion of the people and the prayers that are being said that sanctify the place, that make it so prayerful, so friendly to prayer. And they also have closer to the new shrine, the new building that was built, to accommodate all these millions of pilgrims who come there every year. Eternal adoration chapel. So you know how we call adoration chapels perpetual, but they call theirs eternal, and that's why ours here in St. Anne's is also called eternal. I took the idea from that chapel, and I think it just kind of connects it nicely. When you go to adoration, you actually are connected with the eternal God, like with eternity, like everything stops. And I always loved it there. Yeah, the sisters are great. They're doing a great job there in Poland. They are also missionaries of Divine Mercy. And they are the only ones, I think, in the world that have heard from the Blessed Virgin Mary that every nun of that congregation, which Our Lady said to Faustina is her congregation, will skip purgatory.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That every nun, if she is faithful to her vows and dies in this congregation, she'll skip purgatory. Well, how about that, girls? Is there a better promise?
Too late for us, but
well, yeah, we would have to do a Sisters Act.
Any male religious order offers that kind of thing?
No, not that I know, unless they open a male branch of that community, which, there you go. So, right. Anyways.
Łagiewnicki is basically a heart of Divine Mercy devotion, right? It spreads from that place and draws people back to that place again.
Yeah.
So it's like,
but also just about 200 yards away is the place of John Paul II Museum Center, John Paul II Center, where he used to work as a physical worker during World War II. And the funny thing is that our guides from Poland grandfather used to work with him. They knew each other personally, and they said that when he became a cardinal, John Paul II, when he was still Cardinal of Kraków, he came and visited them personally. And they built the center on the place of the mine, and just imagine that John Paul II would be walking by the monastery of Saint Faustina, going to work, and Faustina could have been there at that time. So very close. And then the last day.
Yeah, the last
day before departing was the day to chill out in the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Zakopane mountains. I mean, Tatry mountains in Zakopane.
Yeah, so we talked about how much effort it took to build this, chapel in the salt mine, in the bottom level of the salt mine. And so there is a mountain which is called Giewont, which is called also a sleeping night, because when you look at the at the Giewont, it looks like a sleeping man, sleeping knight with his profile, and there's a huge cross built out of metal, and it was built also with effort of people who would bring those things up there.
Yes,
hike
medals
up there, and it's huge.
Giewont, it's called Giewont. Yeah.
Giewont. Yeah, that's what I said.
Okay.
I didn't say that.
I don't know.
I said Giewont. Yeah. So Zakopane was also amazing to be there. So we celebrated Mass at Sanctuary of Our Lady of Fatima at Krzeptówki. All those words, all those names, so easy.
KRZ. I don't even know how to spell it. Yeah.
So, and was interesting. It was built as a votive offering after the assassination attempt of John Paul II in 1981. It was built. Was carved. Actually, most of the art was carved in the wood
by the people there,
including the pews and then altar, everything. Beautiful place. And then we had very relaxed day, and that was really needed. That the last day was kind of laid back. We had a amazing lunch with some folklore, some music, some traditional dance, great food served. I think was a pork belly. What?
I don't know. I mean, it was meat. We ate so much food over there that everything seemed to be pork, I guess. Because that's the main dish in Poland. But
so it was amazing, and people really appreciated it. The weather was incredible, and let me tell you this: I think it was a miracle because 2 weeks before our departure to Poland, I called my parents and they said, it's cold. And I'm like, what do you mean it's cold? It's May. But the weather got so much better. It was beautiful, and I have not had that kind of weather. Whenever I go back to Poland for vacations, to have 10 days straight good weather it's almost impossible. So that's what was the pilgrimage, how it looked like. And
by the way, so I guess we telling you this, that if anybody ever invites you to go to Poland on a pilgrimage or to visit Poland, as if you want to see Catholicism still alive and present and in action, please refuse all your preconceived ideas about Poland and the idea there is war there, we're gonna get kidnapped. There's none of this there. It's a beautiful, safe country, and it's worth visiting, and it's exciting. People are only thanking for going. They were extremely appreciative. They're blown away. They're surprised positively, and many of them would love to go back. So I encourage you to check it out and see. And I think in 2 years we will be taking a pilgrimage to Poland again. So stay tuned.
Absolutely. And
subscribe. By the way, this is the first episode of this podcast. So subscribe and wait for the next ones. We will be talking about many different things. Some of devotions that we grew up with and we don't see here anymore, but maybe something that we will be encouraging. Some things that we would like to propose as well, in our churches and our communities.
Right, that's why we came up with this name for the podcast, Between Two Poles. It can have different meanings,
different perspectives. Yeah.
But perspective from our Polish heritage and our mission here in the United States, that would brings us here, and we will love to share some thoughts with you in the future.
Thank you for listening. Please share it if you think this is a good podcast, and God bless you.
God bless you.